really, you are most welcome. My name is Petri Pennanen and I'm from the Center of Mindfulness in Finland. And today, this short session, we are talking about sort of mindfulness in adult education, which I was very excited to dive into and in preparation and see how much actually there has been work done and also research on the subject existing. So I'm just going to share some of the highlights I found together with Pirette, who thankfully helped me a lot on this. But before we jump into that, I thought it would be great to start with one moment to arrive. And this is really almost an experiment. As we are sort of often starting anything, coming into meetings, coming into places, starting a lecture or a session with our learners. So our bodies very much arrive into it, but very often our minds are still all over the place. So this is much of an experiment. What happens when we allow ourselves to fully arrive, mind and body? So why don't you just find a comfortable position in your chair? If you want to, if you care to, just closing your eyes. You can also leave your eyes open and focus your attention at some point in the room, maybe not on the screen. And sensing into your body how you're sitting, your feet, your soles on the ground, your buttocks on the chair. How's your back? Are you leaning into your chair or is the back self-supporting? Just making sure the position is somehow comfortable. And if possible, also expressing some self-respect, dignity, self-care, whatever it means now for you. And whenever you've found a good position, just let your attention go to your breath. No need to change the breath anyways, just noting, sensing into it. How is the breath right now? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Fast, slow? And then letting your attention move to your body. Just checking into your body, what's there now when you're arriving. Maybe some tension, some calmness, itching, aching. And no need to change anything. Just noting, letting it be. And also noting when your mind starts wandering. That's what minds do. Healthy minds start wandering. It's not really a mistake, not a failure. And checking in, where does the mind go? Into the past sessions prior to this, or already into the future, what's going to happen during the rest of the day, or anything else. Just seeing where's your mind busy. And then consciously letting go of all of this as much as is possible and bringing your attention intentionally back into sensing your body, noting, observing what's here just right now. And if your mind is very busy, you need to do this every few seconds. Bring back your attention into this moment. And finally, if you want to, you can just ask yourself the question, what would be a good intention for this session right now? Why did I come to this session? Take the time, make the effort. What would make this session a success for me? And when the first quick answers pop into your mind, maybe ask the question again. Why did I really, really come? What would really make this a success for me? And then slowly finishing this little arrival practice, opening your eyes. And this is maybe already a first practice you can take with you into your teaching, into your education moments, whether it's for yourselves or even for the learners, wherever they are in a class or whatever. And it goes really just bringing the attention first to the breath, then to your body, and then asking yourself, what would be a good intention? Why did I come? And it could be even as quick as just 3 breaths, doing for yourself or within a group. That's done in very many workplaces around the world already. So it's really changing, shifting the nature of many meetings, many sessions. And moving on, I wanted to quickly just tell you who you've got here. So as I said, Petri Pennanen, my company is the Center for Mindfulness Finland. It was founded about 20 years ago by my wife, Lena, who was one of the first persons actually in Europe to be taught by John Kabat-Zinn and his team on mindfulness MBSR when it was introduced into Europe. And she brought it then into Finland and has then ever since been training exclusively mindfulness and emotional intelligence. Always in cooperation with John Kabat-Zinn and his team, who are at this moment located in the Browni Mindfulness Center, which is an Ivy League university. So that's where we get all our curriculums for the mindfulness MBSR trainings. And recently we added then also Search Inside Yourself, which comes out of Google, more for the workplaces. And also GENOS Emotional Intelligence, coming from Australia, an assessment on the various dimensions of emotional intelligence and providing also trainings. And finally, we also are supported by the Mindfulness app, which is based in Stockholm, available in 14 languages. And Lena has done the Finnish language exercises into it. It's like Headspace or Calm or whatever of those. So just to let you know and give you a little bit of a feeling about my background here. Before we jump into the session, I just wanted to quickly see, can we start the poll period? Is that possible? Just let me check. Or let me see.
You should be able to.
Yes, just I'm launching it. So this is a question about just gauging a little bit on your experience with mindfulness. So you see, you can cross in a few of those, or you can just tick one, whatever feels most appropriate. Just to see how much experience or prior knowledge you have. So most have already, so I'm closing it, and here's the results. So there's a few actually who have no prior knowledge, and a few who have at least sort of read or attended a little course. But then also a few who are already practicing at some level. So thanks for this. This is a fairly typical distribution, and great to know. So I'm continuing with the presentation. So I wanted to start off with a study that I found recently from the World Economic Forum in Davos. And they regularly come up with the top employment job skills for the next 5 years. And here's really their list from last October. And here's really my own assessment now. So there is not too much science behind it, more sort of just being in the subject, reading all the studies and then teaching. So ticking off where I think mindfulness training could have an impact on these skills. And I was pretty happy to see that there is about half of the characteristics are really somehow tied and supported by mindfulness training. And obviously the top two, active learning strategies, that's really our subject today. So you are also in a field which is absolutely critical also in the future. Then maybe a word about mindfulness MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. This is the original curriculum that was developed by John Kabat-Zinn here in the picture in the center. And he is one of the big pioneers of bringing meditation into the West. And having had actually two big discoveries. One was that meditation has an impact on our health and well-being, even without all the philosophy and some could say the religion that is mostly associated in the Far East with meditation. So he's really put it more into the background of all of these trainings, and we're just doing the practices as such and seeing the impact of it. And his second actually was that right from the start, he started doing scientific studies and research about it. So his conviction was, unless we start having data about research, it will never get a big thing. And I think he was absolutely correct if you see how big it has gotten. And I'll show you some statistic also about how much science has actually been around now and being created on mindfulness in its various aspects and effects. So really going back to John, so his definition of mindfulness is really paying attention on purpose to the present moment and non-judgmentally. And maybe the last one is the most difficult one, challenging, because it's really just seeing in the moment what's there and accepting it, so to speak. And it could be obviously very pleasant, so it's easy to accept, but it could be also that the moment is not so easy, it's not so pleasant, and still accepting it as it is. So this is really more the question, how am I in relationship to the present moment, rather than wanting to change it. So it's a relational skill very much, which you can train. And it's also good to know what mindfulness is not. So as I said, it's not really a religion. It's really a skill. It's not a technique to clear away thoughts. Even this little practice we did, I was careful to mention that if your mind starts wandering, that's natural. That's what minds do when they are healthy. So it's really more about the exercise to notice it when it's wandered away and bring it back. So it's not a mistake, it's not a failure. That's natural, it happens with every one of us. And also a sort of typical mistake is to think it's a relaxation technique. If I'm meditating and I'm not getting relaxed, something's not working. That's not really the case. If you are not relaxed, then you're not relaxed, and you can just be with it, observe it. And again, it's a relational situation. How can I be in relation with the unease at that moment? And maybe that actually helps and makes you a bit relaxed, by the way, but that's more a side effect. And it's not a technique either in deep breathing. We are bringing our attention very often to the breath. That's one sort of focus point. But the breath is really only to just do it an exercise. It's like lifting the weights, you know, it's the weight. And once you have the skill of bringing your attention back to your breath, for instance, that will go into your daily life, whether it's you're in a discussion or you are, doing an Excel sheet, you're teaching, whatever you're doing, really focused on that. So that you're really training the exercise of your attention, your muscle of attention. And finally, it's not the way to eliminate stress. You will just start realizing that this is a stressful situation. or at this moment there is no stressful situation, I'm just really worried about the future, or the stressful situation is already gone, I'm still ruminating on it. So it kind of makes the peaks sort of get a little bit shorter. And really the stressful situation is a stressful situation. So you can just be with it, notice it, and again, how are you in relationship with that stressful situation? But again, also not having the prior and the afterwards rumination. And I mentioned research. So here's really the statistic on mindfulness research overall. Two things maybe on the research. One is most of this research is actually when it pertains to mindfulness. When you read the studies, there is so often they say they have 8 weeks course, they have MBSR behind it, because that comes out of the university kind of world. It's well defined, it's a clear curriculum, repeatable. So most of the science is actually done on MBSR. So there may be also other mindfulness trainings, they may work, but there's just less research on it. So if you want to sort of go for a safe choice, then you would always go for a sort of a professional, well-educated MBSR teacher, really to train this. And as you see, there is about sort of 1,000 studies these times, and the quality of the studies is getting better, but it's still very, very, very early days. So if somebody says that science has proven, or science, whatever, mostly you should use the word sort of indicates, has promising results, people are excited, there may be something, but still it needs to be, a lot still needs to be done before you can say that it's really a full fact. But that's how science goes, so they just want to repeat it many times, the ends need to be big enough, the techniques need to be good enough, and that's where we are getting to. And I think this curve just shows the level of excitement that there really seems to be something in here. And what they are looking at is really neuroplasticity. The notion that you can actually train your brain even to adult high ages. So it's not just the young ones whose brain is kind of evolving, but with certain exercises, you can train attention, you can train emotion control, you can train empathy. All of these things are really trainable skills. And that's what the research is so excited about. And that's what kind of the neuroplasticity is based on. And I'm sure this, as educators, this is no news to you, but the same concept applies, of course, to meditation. And then I looked at some of the research that is now in the environment of learning and adult learning. I was excited how much there is. And I think a good summary that I found was really done by the Mindfulness Initiative, which is in the UK and has a great webpage and a lot of research. And they actually came out with a very, very recent sort of big study on how to bring mindfulness to schools. So I'm sure that applies to a high degree also to adult education. And what it really says for educators, as you see here, there is first the physical and the mental well-being on the two lower sides, but it goes also to sort of really how you deliver your classes. You're focused, your attention, there's more clarity, priority, and engaging, actually creativity, even how the learning content is delivered. And lastly, but not least, of course, a more emotionally supportive environment, that there is empathy, there is compassion, relationships, calmness in the classroom, and so forth. So all of these were sort of highlighted in various studies and even some meta-studies which are sort of summarizing several studies together. And looking at the other side of the coin is really for the learners. Very similar things, but at the lower levels, sort of the physical and mental well-being, but also then academic performance, cognition, learning, and finally, of course, also the social emotional skills, especially in schools. But I think with adult learning, you would look at things that, you know, when you grow up, it may be harder for you to set yourself again on the and start learning whatever it is. So bringing in self-compassion, bringing kindness, but also attention, sort of staying on the task. All of those sort of are supported by this training. So whether you do it for yourselves or you bring it to your learners, the science would very much support that. It is really a great idea to also implement these tools. And then a couple of highlights I found now, which I think are relevant to learning. And the first one I wanted to share was a very recent study by Microsoft on just the importance of breaks between different sessions. And what they did, they put actually EEG scanners on the participants where the research was done. And they had these people on the first Monday, they had them doing 4 back-to-back sessions, half an hour, without any breaks. And they measured the beta activity of their brain, which is associated to stress in the brain. And what they started seeing was really how stress starts accumulating up. So it gets more and more red, the stress is kind of increasing, and it actually correlates even with engagement. And second week on the Monday, what they did, they introduced 10-minute mindfulness meditation breaks between the sessions, just to let the brain cool down again, to rest. And here you see what happened. Really, the brain didn't accumulate the stress anymore at all. It just stayed fresh, cool, working, engaged. So huge difference. So this was literally just a demonstration, whether it's for the educator or whether it's for the learner, of the importance of breaks between different sessions. And of course, nowadays with the pandemic, there are people who are just jumping from one Teams meeting to the next one. And so here's really some clear data showing that that's not really a good idea. Second one I wanted to share was by Matt Killingsworth of Harvard, who just wanted to see how much we are actually on the task. How much is our attention on what we are doing? And he actually installed with thousands of people an app on their cell phones and asked them, what are you doing now? And is your attention actually on what you're doing? And you can guess on in your minds how much percent you think people are normally attention is there, what you are doing, and how much is it actually somewhere totally else. I share the result. It was really 50-50. So half of the time we are really not there, whatever we're doing. It depends, of course, on the task. If we drive a car, then maybe 90% we're not really driving, and we just are surprised when we are at home what happened actually in between. And then of course there are situations where we are more on the task, absolutely. And he actually, in his article, "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind," you can Google it, he even shares some of those individual results. But for learning, I felt, if you think of being absent, whether you are an educator or the learner, so here's a couple of sort of characteristics which tend to describe that state of mind, that situation. Not really very supportive of learning, I guess. And here's really on the right side now, if you are able to be focused, being there, being present. So obviously a very, very different learning situation. So that's really more on the importance of training your attention, staying really on the present moment. And if it's a learning moment, then really being there. Some of the benefits that were described earlier were also to do with sort of relational aspects of the educator or actually the learner, especially in schools. Really, how much sort of self-awareness do you have about your feelings, how much control you have, how much empathy you have. All of these have to do with the sensations on your body, the emotions, how much you're really aware of them, how much you can control them. So really the emotions, as this picture shows, are really felt as physical sensations in the body. And these sort of these sensations provide really some useful data about the emotional weather system that's going on in our bodies. They obviously change all the time. But it's a study by a Finnish researcher, Lauri Nummenmaa, and he looked really where emotions show up in the body across the world. This really is applicable. That's what he found out from Asia to Africa to Europe to America. Or people tend to feel same feelings, emotions in the same places in their bodies. Like you see here, happiness is sort of in the chest area, in the head. Anger goes more to your fists. Love starts going a little bit already deeper in the body. And I love the pride thing, you know, it really goes into the chest and fully into your head, starts glowing. So this is really to introduce just the notion that the body sends the signals. And the question is just, are we aware? And that's what can be trained. So what we talk is about high resolution self-awareness. And that is really, we all feel some emotions in the body. When you are sort of sad, when you're happy, when you're in love. I mean, it would be kind of strange not to feel anything in your body. But if you start training the skill, your sort of the insula area in your head, which kind of collects all of this data about the bodily sensations, then actually you can start feeling a much more sort of detailed, nuanced picture and become much more aware and quicker also. It has to do with reactivity, that here's some pressure building up. Do I really need to put my autopilot on, or do I take a few breaths and stop it for a while and choose otherwise? But it's also to do with empathy. Can I sense the emotions of others? And it goes even as far as into our decision making. We talk about the gut feeling and so forth. So there's interesting studies done also around that subject. But having said that, I thought that we'd actually jump right into the next exercise, which would be a quick, short sort of experience of the body scan. So if you find, again, a good position, this body scan is actually done very often also lying down on your back. So you can do that as well if it feels comfortable and you are alert enough not to fall asleep. But if you are sort of deciding to stay on your chair, that's fine. You can even stand up. Nobody has fallen asleep while standing. So it's not really a matter of the position. And once you've decided how you want to do this quick exercise, just feeling the ground under your feet. If you're sitting or lying down under your buttocks, sensing maybe your back, finding a comfortable position, and then letting your attention go maybe to your breath. Sensing the breath in your body, maybe the belly expanding a bit, with the out breath contracting again. Just the air flowing into the body, and maybe slightly warmer air again out of the body. And all the movements that go with the breathing. Your body breathing. And whenever you feel ready, bring your attention to your feet, to the toes, to your soles, just sensing what's there. Whether it's itching, whether it's tingling, or could be warm, cold, moisture, or the sock on the skin. Whatever it is, no need to change anything, just noting, observing. What's there in my feet, just right now? And if you don't sense anything, that's fully okay. No need to create any sensations or feelings, just noting, okay, I don't feel nothing now. And then letting your attention move to your legs, all the way from the ankles through the knees, up to your pelvis area, the thighs. Any sensations there which you can note, bringing in some curiosity. And whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, no matter. Just noting that's what here right now. And very quickly you can also notice that your mind starts wandering again. That's what minds do. Go into the past, they go into the future, or different tasks lists, or whatever it is. Noting that as well. Time to let go and bring your attention back to your legs, to your body, to right this moment. Noting how you can direct your attention back. And then letting the attention shift upwards to your pelvis area, your buttocks on the chair, stomach, lower back, sensing maybe some tension or calmness, restlessness, agitation, whatever it is, hunger. Just with an open, curious, maybe also kind mind, whatever is there, noting it and letting it be. And then letting your attention shift upwards to the breast area, chest, upper back, maybe sensing the movement with the breath, or even your heartbeat. And again, if your mind is very busy, it will start wandering. That's no mistake, it's not the failure, it's part of the practice. Just noting, waking up and bringing the attention back to your chest area, to your body. And then letting your attention shift to your hands, your fingers, maybe itching, tingling. Hands, maybe some air on the skin. And then letting your attention wander to your arms, the lower arms, upper arms, up to your shoulders. And finally to your head. Maybe noting your cheek, full of small little muscles, creating facial expressions all day long, communicating with the outer world. Maybe letting them also rest, let go of all tension for a moment. Give them a little break. And then maybe your nose area, the nostrils, air flowing in. Slightly warmer air maybe flowing out again. And finally, letting your attention to go to the top of your head and from there to your breath, and taking a few deep breaths in and out, and letting the breath go through your whole body, from your head through the chest, stomach, legs, all the way to the soles and the toes. And with the out breath, letting go of all tension, letting it flow maybe into your chair, into the ground, as much as is possible. Just an in-breath, and with the out-breath, letting go. relaxing as much as is possible. And sensing again your whole body breathing, being in the moment, just as it is. So maybe slowly opening your eyes if you already closed your eyes, coming back, maybe sensing the body, what changed now that you did a quick first body scan. And I just wanted to go through a couple of slides still about practice. And just to emphasize that really making progress on mindfulness or meditation in general really consists of three pillars. One is your individual practice, like you saw the picture on playing the piano. Unless you really start playing it, learning it, there is not going to be much of progress. Just listening to lectures or these kind of sessions or whatever it is isn't really going to change much in sort of your ability in your brain. The neuroplasticity starts really working when you practice yourself. But having said that, groups are also, I mean, this has been practiced for thousands of years also in groups. So you have your individual, but then you come back every now and so often and practice also together in groups. And that's what MBSR is all about. It's kind of weekly meetings, 2.5 hours for 8 weeks. So every week you come back for 2.5 hours to share experience, to get some inspiration. And if the practice has kind of lapsed a bit, to get some inspiration also to continue, find some time, prioritize it. And finally, equally important that you have validated method, like the MBSR, where I said there is thousands of research studies showing its impact, and also a professional teacher who really has a strong practice himself, has gone through some teacher training. Actually, the standard is 2-3 years of training. So it's really an intensive sort of curriculum to go through MBSR teacher training. If you want to read more, this would be a useful sort of list of books. I think you will either you make a screenshot of it or you will get some notes, or I think Pierrette is going to do a blog. Maybe this list could be there. Very different. There is John Kabat-Zinn in the middle. Altered Traits is more about the science and the background, how this evolved. Sharon Salzberg is a pioneer in kindness, loving kindness meditations, really bringing that side very strong. And then you've even got here on the right side, Chad-Meng Tang, who's the person at Google who created the Search Inside Yourself program. So more really bringing mindfulness from a sort of engineer, scientist kind of perspective into workplaces. And if you want to sort of learn more, then here's really where you could at least download an app. The mindfulness app, which I mentioned earlier, has about 250 teachers, mostly in English, but there is also the sort of, at least in Finnish language, I don't think it really has Estonian, unfortunately, yet there. So you'd probably, if you are able to listen to Finnish, you could listen to Lena's, but elsewise probably go for the English one or any other language that you find which is supportive. And we do actually have a partnership with a school in Estonia. I'm not very good at pronouncing this, but you see the logo and also the internet address. And we've done some short courses there, longer trainings. There's a teacher training first year going on at this moment. And some people actually from Estonia have come even into Finland, into our silent retreats. And let's see whether we can also start organizing them once the pandemic has moved a bit, also to organize them in Estonia. But having said that, that kind of completes my presentation here. So I wanted to open it up at the end also to whether or not you have some question, comments, or just want to share some experience or whatever it is you may have on your mind at this moment. So we have about 5 minutes, and I'm going to stay also longer if need be, if you have anything, but feel free to jump in and whatever you may have to share.
I'm just going to say that Marit has shared in the chat that interesting part is opposite color themes on emotional awareness slide and on the slide where brains presented, waves. Just an interesting note.
Okay, yes, yeah, no, that's great. I felt also it was kind of very interesting, and it's a very recent study actually. It was publicized in Forbes only last month. So this is really new data that emerged out of the pandemic, where people are just jumping from one meeting to the other, and the best ones I think have two meetings going on at the same time. So that's what. So I guess it's not very effective working, neither it's effective learning either. Katrin, did you have anything? Did I see you show your hand? Ah, okay. Anybody else? Any comments, thoughts, or even experiences on those? We had the little arrival practice, which could go for focused attention, at least to some degree, or then the body scan. How was that for you? Easy, difficult? Any change you noted?
Thank you for the exercises. I find it difficult. My mind starts to wander very quickly. I'm able to meditate when I do yoga, but listening to somebody else's guided meditation is kind of a burden on my mind. So I need my body to be actively engaged and my breathing working to cater to the oxygen need. Then I can meditate.
All right, Uku, and that's very interesting you say that because actually yoga is one of the 3 main exercises. So one is focused attention, one is body scan, which you did, and yoga is actually the 3rd one. We just didn't manage to bring it in, so you're absolutely on the subject. And if you know guidance is not helping you, then let it go. So really the guidance would be whatever works. And some people need the guidance. It helps them, at least initially. And some people are just, you know, I just put my clock and it rings after 20 minutes and then I've done my exercise. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's very, very good experience.
Thank you. I appreciate the response.
Yes, yeah. And see, the exercise is still the same. I mean, if we think of, you know, a body scan, where the idea is to bring your attention to some part of the body, and when the mind starts wandering, you bring it back, you sense into it. So whether there is guidance or not, the exercise for the brain, I think, is still the same. You know, we're still training sort of the insula, which kind of collects all the body sensations, and we are training the part of the brain that brings the attention back when it starts wandering. So whether it's like in the gym, I mean, whether you have the trainer next to you telling you or you're just lifting the weights yourself, I mean, who cares? That's at least a sort of very sort of physical view to look at it. Yes. Alice, did you want to share something?
No, I wanted to participate the conversation, but actually I practice Vipassana meditation. So this is also observing the body. So
yes, yeah. So this is was this close to it, the body scan?
I prefer to do it also in silence, to notice all the details and vibrations. So okay. Yes, but I always like to do these kind of exercises, so it's perfect. Always good. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's so useful. So it's great you like it, so it makes it easier. Anything else?
I'm going to say that Marit has shared that it wasn't too easy because she constantly started to think how to bring it into her lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And Lise has shared that exercises were good to take time out.
Yes, yeah. And here's the trick when people say it's not so easy, because there's actually nothing to get and nothing to achieve. So if the mind is busy, just noting the mind is busy, and I'm already working on thinking where I could use this. So that's really what the mind does very naturally. So that's what the exercise is then, to just notice, okay, I'm already busy thinking, and can I come back? That's more the practice. And with the body scan, it could be that very difficult emotions come up. And then people come to my class and say, I'm doing 3 steps backwards. Last week it was so easy, it was so wonderful. This week it's just awful feelings. So it's 2 steps forward and 3 backwards. And I'm saying, no, it's the same exercise. You're doing 5 steps into progress, but it's just different feelings. And you're just getting open and aware of all the feelings that are there. I'm saying that we don't have an exercise where we could sort of teach you just feel the good ones. The brain learns to feel the body, and it just feels everything that is there, unfortunately. and 50% it's probably positive, 50% negative, and you feel the whole gambit. Yeah. So that's maybe just to keep in mind that the exercise, the practice is always perfect. It's just like lifting weights. Any further comments or questions you want to put in? So I think we'll bring it to a close. Thanks for attending, and I wish you a great day also with perhaps other subjects, maybe also lunch if you haven't had. Take care of your body, whatever it needs, and remember also the breaks. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for participating also.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.